Hello, everyone. Welcome to Justice with Jax, Season 2, Episode 5. I can't believe it. I have yet another really freaking cool guest. I'm going to let Mischa introduce herself in a second here. And so today, as usual, we're going to make a note that it's Friday, November 1, 2024. So that's 1 year, 3 months, 1 day since the case that I'm a litigant in Armendariz versus City of Colorado Springs, represented by the American Civil Liberties Union of Colorado, has been filed. That's also 459 days. And this is why we have an excellent guest for today. Shake our heads. There's 3 days until Election Day 2024. And so I'm going to hand it over to Mischa to introduce herself further, pronouns, any affiliations that you like, and then we'll jump into a little bit more about the case, Armendariz versus City of Colorado Springs. There's just a little updates that we'll share.
Awesome. Okay, first, so proud of you. I cannot believe how far you've come in this really difficult time, and so thank you for having me on, and so proud of you. My name is Mischa Smith. I am the current chair of the El Paso County Democratic Party. I also work in politics and have been in politics for about 15 years, and this is the latest endeavor. I've run for office. I've run local to federal, everything from presidential all the way down the ticket, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Mischa. And she's not going to say it, but I am. We go back. We're going to talk about how we go back. But she's a political badass. Like, there's no need for her to list every single thing. That would be a whole episode as well. But just so you know, this episode is dedicated to singing Mischa's praises. Just FYI.
That's nice.
It's nice, right? Because as a chair, maybe you get a lot of complaints and angry people your way. No.
Yeah.
No, that never happens.
No. Like, people are so kind. No, it's not. It's nonstop. It is nonstop complaints.
There's a lot.
No matter what you do, it is never enough. And so this is definitely the most real insider look at what candidates go through and what elected officials go through, I think.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. The people need to know, right?
Yes.
The people should know. And so that's what this show is for. I like to refer to it as like an educational vehicle. The case is, has my name on it, but it's so much bigger than that to me. And you've been one of the amazing people in my circles who has like held me while this really challenging experience still goes on. And that's why this show exists, because part of it is, yes, capturing the story of the community and also just keeping the story like alive, because we know that in the legal system it is a long process. And so here's the update about process, because that's where we're at, is so we remain in the U.S. District Court 10th Circuit. We're still in appeals, right? And so process wise, yes, and sometimes it occurs to me, justice delayed is justice denied, right? We talk about those things. So we're remaining patient, but right now, process-wise, this district court, right, is looking strictly at the application of the law versus, like, the substance of the arguments, right? So they're reviewing the lower court's ruling because, as we've said on the show painfully, back in April, the case was dismissed, and that was really hard. And thank you again for being there for me, because my community is, in large part, like, what held me. And so right now, we submitted in the appeals court our opening brief, and so the defendants, which is the City of Colorado Springs, the FBI, the U.S. government, it's really, to this day, it always feels surreal saying that for myself, right? And how can it not, right? Yeah. And so they they now need to file their reply, and they will be filing that by, I think, November 20 is the latest information we got. And so keep in mind, our arguments here are that, there was a violation of rights to free speech and privacy. Yeah. And so this is why the case has weight, and obviously we're going to keep fighting to protect people's rights. Right. So once that November 20 deadline comes for the defendants to reply, then ACLU of Colorado, since they are litigating the case, will have the chance to file a reply brief to that brief on December. Yes, a reply to a reply.
Great.
And that will take place in December. Yeah. So already this appellate process has taken really 3/4 of the year. Really.
Yeah.
And we knew that was going to be part of this journey.
Yep.
And that's why, the podcast will keep going as long as there's a story to tell, and there's always going to be community voices to hear.
Yeah.
And so after that, we're looking toward, we have no particular timeline given how it goes, but the next big milestone would be oral arguments, like heading up to Denver, the seat of the circuit court. So that will be a big moment. It's a lot. It's a lot, and I really appreciate that people acknowledge that often, and I get usually comments that are like, it's so great, like what you're doing, and then quickly after that, people are like, I'm so sorry that had to happen to you. I don't mean that. Like, what happened wasn't great, but it's important to keep this case going, and I'm just forever grateful that the community and entities like ACLU Colorado see the need as well, because you can't do these kind of things alone, which is why it's part of how we met. Like, we have values in alignment and the belief that collective power is what makes us some of our strongest.
100%. I think it's wild, though, because, like, there is nothing great about this. You should not be in this position. There is nothing great about your life being paused. There is nothing great about how we got here. Like, you are strong and you are a badass, and you shouldn't have to be. And, like, that's the truth of it.
That's a lot of what we talk about sometimes with the world. Like, yes, we are very resilient as women of color, people in our generation getting very screwed over economically. Like, we were forced to be resilient, and we just want a world. I don't want to speak for you, so jump in, but I think a lot of people talk about just wanting a world that doesn't force people to have to be so resilient, a world with fairness.
So, like, my tagline since I started this position has been, I want to make it easier for one girl after me. One girl. Yeah. And I mean that not just one female, not just one, but it's the saying, right? Like, I was a girl in politics. I know what was at stake. I know how hard it was. I know the uphill battle to stay here and to do this work and to have to be resilient. And so I want one girl to come after me and not have to do that.
Precisely. Yeah. And I love putting it that way, because part of what I embrace too, and I think this is, as I get more strength out of knowing like my heritage and my identity, as part of me having indigenous ancestry, I love to think of it as like the 7 generations, right? Like, we should be thinking about the future. Yes. And that's really what we're facing with this, I'm going to say it, this crazy ass election cycle, because you and I have been fighting this guy for like going on 10 years, but we're going to get to that because
trauma.
I called it my beautiful nightmare back in 2016, but we're going to talk about that. Yeah. But I thought, since we're kind of getting into it, one of the questions that I had that I thought would be great to hear from the county party chair is systems, right? Yeah. Like, the county party is a system, and then we're part of a system that there's a state party, and there's the national, and that can make it complicated, but it can also be, I think, a source of strength if we remember that humans are part of what are making this up, right? Humans, can we center the humanity that everyone has? And so, you and I, and on this show, we've talked about how systemic change is deeply challenging because it takes so much time and commitment. Like, again, you and I've been doing about 10, you've been 15, we're under 40. Yeah. Like, we're both under 40.
Yeah, like children doing this,
And I want to say, like, and this goes along with it too, what you had started to name, like, you're the first Black woman chair. Yep. I think you're the first under 40. Yep. You have done so much in terms of people want to, measure success. Yeah. Our county party has raised the most money it ever has. We're seeing the most new blood we've ever seen, more and more diversity among candidates. So, it sounds like things are changing. And so, in general, as a political badass, what would you share with people about this fact of life? Like, systemic change is hard and it takes time.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. I think despite being in this industry for as long as I have, was so naive to what it was going to really take.
Aren't we all?
I was so naive.
Mr. Smith goes to Washington.
100%. You're like, I got this. It's going to be so great. People are going to be so understanding. It's what they asked for. It is never what they asked for, right? People want change, but not that change. People want brown people, but not that brown person. People want young women, but not her. Right. And so what I have found is, arguably, we are doing really, really well. Our fundraising is great. It's the best it's ever been since we had somebody who basically single-handedly funded the party. It is the best it's ever been since then. We have a group that has come together from the old guard and the new guard. We have young people that are involved, people of color. The biggest compliment I think I've gotten as being chair was at our last gala when someone looked at me and said, I think the median age is down by 20 years. And there's more brown people here than I've ever seen. And I was like, wow, that's it. That's a win. I'm taking it.
Congrats on that as a chair.
Put it on my tombstone.
Seriously. Absolutely.
But I think, like, to your point, yeah, I am not the typical chair. And so it's difficult to go into rooms with chairs that are retired, who have probably never worked in politics.
You're a working class chair who has a lot of working experience in politics. Both of those are actually atypical.
So weird. Because normally it's people who are just like, who love campaigns. Yeah. And so for me to come in and be like, well, technically we have to do this, I think there's a lot of distrust in that. Yeah. Of people saying, does she know what she's talking about? And I have a saying where I say, you know, I used to make, and currently now make a lot of money to look this stupid and have these opinions. So, like, give me a chance. And it's been really good, but it's been hard. Yeah. And I think as you talk about the structure of, like, having a local party and a state party and a national party, the difficulty is that making all of those talk and work together is exhausting.
Communication is always one of the number one complaints, and it's just never going to be perfect. And kind of, some of the analogies I like about voting is like, you're not getting married, you're catching the bus. Just get the right bus, right?
Get the bus, yeah.
And I think part of our work is like shifting those mindsets to acknowledge that reality, right? And then I think another thing that's exciting about what you named is, and I don't think a lot of people talk this fact up, is that isn't the largest slice of our electorate here in this county like age 40 to 30?
Yeah. So it kills me. We have the largest voting population in El Paso County. We have the biggest one. And it is hard because we often get ignored because we're the little red dot. Because our county is big. Well, because that's big, but also because we're the red dot. But it's purple. It's getting purple.
Changing.
It's changing.
Yeah.
And I think something that is really difficult for people that are younger is to understand that we can be a part of the party and not agree with everything the party does.
And let's go. Yeah. You know we're going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about it. So you know when you're looking at systems, that is something that has been really difficult for me to come in and be like, that's great. I love this party. I love what we have to do because there is no other option right now, right? And so, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say when things don't make sense to me or when things don't sound right, and that has ruffled feathers.
But that's the type of leadership I would argue that we clearly need, and it's clearly had, like, effectiveness. And I would say, too, is, like, there's so much that a county party can do, and I've been proud of us because I think that is the big piece that, at least one of the big pieces that has changed a lot more action than talk. Yeah. And that's like, sounds like it's oversimplifying it, but I'm really proud of us because as a party person, I know I've been doing the couple of past years to be like, we got to get candidates who people are going to vote for, candidates who people have them on the ballot and feel like they actually have a choice for once, right? Other than just picking between the two lesser evils or such and such.
I'm so proud that this elective group, this executive committee, has been able to fill every spot on the ballot. That's never happened. Yeah. And so, like, every single person in El Paso County gets the opportunity, the choice to vote for a Democrat. And choice is so fucking important to me. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can. Okay, yeah. Swear words. It's politics. We gotta cuss it out sometimes.
We grew up in the So it's that's so important to me that people have choice. Even if we don't win, the opportunity to look at somebody and be like, wow, I'm not picking just because I don't have a choice. It's exciting.
It's really meaningful. And some of the candidates, you know, we had the pleasure of sitting down with, like, Jeremy Dowell, who that one's really meaningful to me because a choice for DA. Yeah. Like, how heartbreaking has it been for decades now to just really feel like you're never even represented because there's literally one dot on the ballot. That just ain't right.
You like, just don't vote,
yeah,
right?
and regardless of what your political affiliation is, like, the reverse would be upsetting as well. Like, choice, diversity, some people may have a problem with that word, but ultimately we know that's actually what our strengths are.
100%. My dream is that you are holding your electeds accountable. If they're not showing up, that you have a choice to say, I'm not voting for you. I don't care
because you did not do your job well.
You didn't do your job. Yeah. And that's my dream.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, so we talked about systemic change and how it takes time and it'll never be flipping a switch to see all the change you want. And really, you know, I think, again, I don't want to speak for both of us, but tell me if this is part of where you come from too, is that my theory of change is me stepping up and, like, doing what I can, whatever that may look like. And in my case, I think what I often tell people is I understand your apathy and cynicism, but I can guarantee you that if you don't get involved, you're literally never going to see what you want. You're not going to see the change you want if you just stick your head in the sand, etc. So how do you talk to people about that element?
So I know we'll get here, but in 2016 there was a little election and we lost.
Just a little thing
little baby one.
I called my nightmare.
The beginning of my political trauma. Anyway, so we lost, and I was like, I'm retiring. This is not for me. And I went home and I worked in long-term Medicaid, which is political. And I worked in
it's a federal program. All of it's political. I think she's making the point.
I worked in childcare. I was teaching. All of it political. And so when I got a call from my friend being like, "You're too young to retire. We live in America," which was also political. I was like, okay, I'm going to come back out. I'm going to do it. And so, part of it is just seeing like a hole and being like, I'm going to fill it. And I think that is part of why we get each other, but also like the just rough part about it is like, if there's a hole and we have capacity, we're going to raise our hand and be like, I guess I'll take it. I can add that to this plate. And absolutely, it's like doing the work. It is not finding someone to do it. It's saying, if you will not step up, if somebody will not step up, I will step up.
That is very true. Like, burnout is so real, and I think we've done better, but that's part of our work as well, is building that bench.
Yes.
And like having more thriving young Democrats. Well, they're now an official, what's their designation under a party?
Yeah, they're the El Paso County Young Dems.
Yeah, so they did the work as a group to, organize under the party, but have a lot of independence because they all stepped up. And these are people, I think I'm aged out now, actually. But technically, to be a young Democrat, it's what, 35 and under?
35 and under.
Yeah.
Just a year and a half left. They actually just gave me an award, Young Dem of the Year. It was so so meaningful. But they stepped up and like they're beasts. They do the work. They're the ones that are campaigning.
They're really impressive.
Yeah, they're smart and they're driven.
They really
excited.
care.
They really
the driven part is I'm very happy about, and it's been such a pleasure to see that growth, because I don't think I may not have mentioned this before, but I am so grateful that Mischa appointed me to executive committee as the Latina and Indigenous outreach lead, and we've done some work. Now, the kids are ahead of us, I would say, but we've done some work to create a committee for our actions as well, and so now we're an action committee, and we're going to keep trying to build ourselves, because that's what it's about on our side, is really building community. There's a lot of, I think, I'll say baggage about how Democrats and the party conducts itself. And it's so complicated, though, because people will ascribe an experience that is really, the county party had nothing to do with it. Maybe the state or the national did, but because we're your locals and we're always trying to organize, like, it doesn't matter if it's an off-cycle, we kind of get that blowback, right?
I got told off for Joe Biden for months. People would just see me be like, and you're an idiot. And I'm like, I am El Paso County.
Not my scope,
friend.
Like,
in another life, maybe. In this scope, no.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because, like, the young people are ahead of us, which I'm always excited about.
I love that.
All right, I'm like, keep running.
These millennials
run.
will totally clear the way for Gen Z. We're so grateful for Gen Z.
Run. And the thing that was most important, everything's important to me, but was also equally important was that we, as Democrats, have a terrible habit of coming into communities of color, communities that are marginalized, and saying, we really want your vote. For this election cycle, we're going to be your best friend. And then the day after the election, we are gone. Nowhere to be found. Right. And so having those groups, those committees, like the Latina and Indigenous Committee, was so important because we wanted y'all to be able to organize yourselves and be able to have a seat at the table so that people weren't making decisions for you.
It's about self-determination
100%.
Largely, right?
100%.
Love it. And that's a good segue. You bring up Biden, who is no longer the candidate. Here's what I thought around this question. So, it's let's just call out the hard truth that there is leftist infighting
100%.
on our so-called side of the political aisle, and some of us laugh about it. It can it's a beautiful thing because it shows you that people care, but it is also really frustrating,
Oh,
obviously.
yes. Oh, yes.
And so, one of the examples, in other words, is like some of us voted non-committed in the March primary. I did not vote for Joe Biden.
Okay.
And some people
And I did. Yeah.
Okay, so see, this is a perfect example.
This is the conversation, yeah.
And so, now thankfully we have Kamala.
Yeah.
And we're both, I think, pretty happy about that.
So excited.
Yeah. And so, we're the big tent party.
Yeah.
And that's part of why this struggle will fundamentally be part of our work together. Yeah. And so, what do you think about this struggle?
So one of my favorite Joe Biden stories is I did Advance and I was working for Pete Buttigieg. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I worked for Pete because he reminded me of the gay Obama. Watching young gay kids, watching young LGBTQIA kids come up and cry because they saw in themselves somebody running for president. I was
so deep,
up.
So
take
deep.
My blood, take my sweat, take it all.
Yep.
And so the first time I met Joe Biden, I was standing in a hall waiting for Pete, and they call us and they say, the vice president is coming, you guys are getting bumped. Of course. Okay, I go, I'll leave. They go, no, you're fine. So I walk into a wall with all my Pete stuff, and I hide, and I'm please don't look at me, just ignore me. I'm staring at the wall. He walks in and he goes, oh, hey, good to meet you. Hooks at my shirt and he goes, oh, and then he walks away. And so I was I disappointed the vice president and former and future president at this time.
Right.
Super. Go me. So when the whole Joe Biden thing was happening, I could see both sides. I could see it. I understood it. I wasn't mad. What made me angry was that there is not a choice, right? When Donald Trump
we
was on
just
the ticket,
talked about this,
right?
Yeah.
There's not a choice. You show up, you do what you have to do. So I loved our discourse. I loved the conversation. I loved that people were coming.
Actually healthy when you can do it respectfully.
Yeah.
Because I think as leaders, accept that conflict will happen.
Yes.
And you need to be competent in leading people to go forward, though.
And have conversation.
Yeah.
And my whole purpose was yes, bitch about it, moan about it, tell me how you feel about it, come to me with really well thought intentions. If you just need to vent,
take some action.
And
also,
then take some action, put that into action, and then no matter what comes on November 5th, be ready to defend our country. That was all my ask was.
Yeah.
I didn't care who it was. And I've had this conversation with the other candidates I've worked for. If Satan came from the ground right now and was running against Donald Trump, I'd be where are we going, sir?
That's a rough one. I get it, though.
But that's how I feel, because our democracy is hanging by floss.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just wanted us to get to work. Let's talk about it. Let's have our conversations. Let's vent, but let's get to work. Let's organize. Let's do what we do.
Yes,
and
let's do that. It seems simple. And Mischa's one of the people that I'm, again, so grateful for in many ways, but one of them is I will text her the bullshit. I'll be look at this bullshit. And we just kind of commiserate on it, because that is so hard for people like us who we have given blood, sweat, tears, and show up on the front lines pretty much every chance we can. And then when we see people just, shit talking and seemingly doing nothing more than that. And one of the things that really burns me is, I'm not saying this because I support a two-party system, but to say that Democrats and Republicans are just exactly the same, it's not reality right now. Right? And are there problematic things in our party? Yes, but at least I can look at us and our values and know that there are people like us who will continue to push and demand accountability and want alignment with our values and take a lot of heat and shit and get called out in public when we act with our values. Like an example, we won't have to get into it, but as an executive committee, it became a really dumb headline that we had to remove someone who essentially violated our protocol, clearly written out for the party in their particular role, which they were appointed to, right? It was a legit role, and it was so wild to me to have a bunch of people not involved in the party be burr, 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 burr. And to some of those people, thank you. At least one has since apologized, right? So that does happen. But that's just an example of it. That part gets really hard. And I guess maybe, I don't know, how do you feel about it? Does it motivate you more? Do you have to just kind of compartmentalize? Is it all of those things? I think I just get kind of upset.
That took years off my life. And there have been many times in this party that took years off my life. Just feeling like my character was being called out for somebody else's bad choice,
right?
Which is what we sign up to do, right?
As leaders, right?
We sign up for it. And that one, I will never, ever hide my head for being on the right side of history on something.
Exactly.
And the thing about it is, does it motivate me? Sometimes. Oftentimes it makes me sad. Because what I want to sit down and say to somebody is, if this is how you feel, do something.
You can be the change you want to see in the party.
Get involved.
Keep pushing us left. Push it farther.
Push us further. Tell us what you want to see, but don't stand from the sideline and throw pot shots. Like that's my problem.
Me too.
And I also feel like as a human, I am somebody, and like you are, we have to be as women of color in this industry, who if you come to me and you have an actual valid argument, I will listen to you, I will talk to you. What I'm not going to do is argue with somebody who doesn't care.
Yeah, and it's especially is like in my face saying like I'm not a human being to them.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't really have to give you that time of day then.
Yeah.
Very simple to me. So I feel like we're getting passionate. Let's talk about this. Because I'm wondering if you've had a conversation like this with your mom.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I may have told you this story, but I feel like I've only doubled down on this mentality even more. Because you and I have been in tough places. We are battle tested, the both of us, very much so. And I was the staffer, a field organizer in 2016, right, on the national coordinated. That's sort of how we were going to get into it, sort of how we know each other. And I remember knowing in El Paso County, right, knowing the red dot context, that I straight up told my dad that I would be out, like, with the Democrats wearing my Obama hat, and Dad, if I knock on a door and someone chooses to take my life, shoot me, commit violence against me because I was wearing an Obama hat and for the Democratic candidate, Dad, please let everyone know I knew that and I did it anyway. And I only feel like a billion times more strongly about that. And tell me, like, what you have had to talk about with your family in terms of that, because like stepping up for leadership in this part of the timeline, like, you face some really, really stark realities as women of color, 100%. As Democrats.
Yeah. My family worries about me every day. And so I think the first time that it became apparent, when I first went in 2016, you know, we were all laughing to the bank about Hillary Clinton. We all thought, like, okay.
We thought we had it.
We thought we had it.
Yeah.
So when it started to get violent, I remember the KKK was coming to Harrisburg, and they were training us as organizers to defend our volunteers. And so as a woman of color, I'm in a training about, like, how I'm the only one.
When the KKK comes, this is how you protect your people.
I'm the only one. And they're like, defend your white volunteers. And I'm like, okay. So I'm standing there, and you know you get adopted. So your volunteers are like, no, Mischa, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, no, I got it. So they're like, I'm standing with you. I'm not. And I remember, like, feeling that, like enclosure of people just like, I got you, but also knowing that. And my mom cried. And my dad was like, please don't do this. Please don't. And that was the first time that I realized that, like, I had explained to them this was bigger than me and I was going to do it either way. Mm-hmm. And if they came to my door, I was going to stand outside and I was going to hold the line so my volunteers could make fucking phone calls. Yeah. And so that was the first time. When I was running for office, the amount of sexual harassment that I experienced, I still don't go places now without a man or without several women, because it was so tough. And my parents are scared every day. They're like, what happens? I have a yard sign in my brand new house that I've bought. And my family, every time they come, they're like, a yard sign? Like, here? And I'm like, what are you going to do? And so a couple months ago, to go down this rabbit hole, we found out that there was a list circulating of women of color that were the first to go if Trump wins. I am on that
list.
List.
Can I be on the... Did they put me on the list?
I've never seen it.
I want to get into that party.
Listen, never seen it, but I'm on it. And so I'm having conversations with my family about, like, okay, if they come to my house, if this happens, I want you to do this, save the dogs. And my family is like, this is what you signed up to do. And every day, that's our reality, is every day someone can decide, today is the day I don't want you to be my next problem. Mm-hmm. And as long as I'm here, I'm always going to be your next problem. So, like, I'm going to see you again. So let's just
I feel you so deeply on that. And I don't know if you've experienced this too, but, like, we try to do our party work and bring people in. And I've talked to other young brown people that are like, yo, I really appreciate you, but I'm not willing to like lose my life 100%. Over it. And I respect that, and I would never just diminish it. And so that is very real too. And I don't know that there's like an answer to that other than honoring that truth and supporting the people who do make the choice to do that, because not everyone needs to or wants to make that choice, but there are people in front of you doing it every day.
What I think is interesting is knowing what I have been through and like feeling like people weren't honest with me about what was at stake. I feel like I have to be honest. So if somebody's like, I'm thinking about this, I'm like, let me tell you what it's like. And if they look at me and they go, I don't want that, I'm okay with that. I can live with that, because I'm not dragging you into this decision that I made and continue to make every single day if this is not something that you would lay your life down for. And that's okay. We need everybody. We need you to vote. We need people that are going to go out and do work in other industries.
Donate, put 5 on it, whatever you can do. There is no judgment.
Correct.
And simply, so in that case, I would reiterate, if there's like a solution to that, is do what your conscience tells you, and please support the people in front of you that you see openly taking those barbs, those arrows every day.
Right. And that's, I think, the one thing that I think hurts is like, it's okay for you not to want to be involved, but have our back. Show up for us and like, you know, check in on us, because this is lonely. It's a lonely industry.
Yes, let's talk about that, but we're going to flip it. We try to have a balance here, because obviously the subjects are serious, but there's also good in the world, plenty of it. And so let's talk about us, because it's actually a good segue, because we have committed to having each other's back as under 30 women of color for years now. And like, I love how we met. And in political work, one of the most beautiful things I think I would say is that you may meet someone in such a short time, but it goes deep immediately
100%.
Because it's values driven. You're being frontline together. Yeah, definitely. And we go back all the way to 2016.
Yes, this is
because,
my favorite story.
Good. And so you tell some of it. I don't have to tell all of it. But the cutest thing in the world, I had this amazing volunteer, Ms. Donna Smith, shout out. And so I was very lucky, because as a field organizer, you know, it's all about numbers, and you got to get the volunteers going and knock the doors and the calls. And so thankfully Donna, she was a huge contributor, Super Vol. Well, here's why she was a Super Vol. I later discovered in 2016, she very gracefully and so sweetly told me, it's like, hey, I'm really sorry, but I've got to go to Pennsylvania. And I was like, well, battleground state, like I respect that. And like why? And it turned out her daughter, Ms. Mischa Smith, was a similar badass doing the thing out there. And so I was like, wow, that'd be really cool if I get to meet her. I had no idea that Donna had a daughter who we were a fam already.
So I'm in Pennsylvania, and I'm calling my mom with like horror stories, just like, Mom, this happened.
It's really hard out there.
It's so hard. It's hard everywhere. It's hard being a woman. And so I'm calling my mom with horror stories. And so like, I'd probably been out there for like a week, and I get a call from my mom, and she's like, I can't do this anymore. And I was like, she's gonna make me come home. She's gonna lose her mind. And she goes, where is our office? I said, what do you mean? She goes, I need you to find me our office. I'm going to go and I'm going to help somebody, because I'm going to put karma into the world for you. And so my mom goes, finds you, falls in love with you. And so I'm getting calls from my mom.
It was mutual.
Me and Jackie today, we did da-da-da-da. We did this. She loved you. And I'm like, did you knock doors for her? Did you call? Did you ask her what she needed? She goes, I'm bringing food tomorrow. And I was so proud of her, because like I was being adopted by just a collection of white and Jewish women. And I was like, she needs that, Mom. She needs it.
And then I got adopted by your mom.
Yes. I was like,
How cool is
you
that?
need it. And so when I come home, my mom was like, you have to meet her. You're going to love her. And I was like, I have to meet this person who my mom has like had a surrogate daughter relationship with. She's like vicariously living through you, because I'm away. And I was like, we met, and I was like, oh, this makes sense. Like, yes, duh. Like, we are very much on the same side of the pillow. And so I was very excited about that. And it made my mom, her experience of losing me, so much easier having you.
That is
and it made
awesome.
it so much more enjoyable.
Connection again that just, it's priceless. And like, if you want to have your heart in the world, I think, and like your spirit fed, like, it's hard work, but here we are almost 10 years later talking about it and connected and doing even more work together because of those bonds that we built. And then what I also love is So flash forward a few years, then we actually started working in the Senate, and I got to Senator Bennett's office, and then we had the other U.S. Senate position election, right? Yeah. And thank God we kicked Cory Gardner the fuck out of there. See you later. Yeah. And Mischa started working for Hickenlooper. So then, again, we had this, to me, I think kismet is the right word. 100%. But we just overlapped again. We were two young women of color in the U.S. Senate serving as staffers for like old white guys. Like 100%. they wouldn't disagree with being 100%. Called old white guys. No,
100%. They know them. They know who they are.
We've met them.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And so I loved that about us. And then even to some extent, we kind of moved on from that direction of that piece of our around the same time. And so we go back, and I love our relationship, and I really treasure it. And it's an opportunity to also ask some of the things I talk about on this show is be like, yeah, this case really affected me, obviously, directly. But anytime entities that represent the government or are the government take an action that violates rights, there's ripple effects. And so do you remember, like, I know you were there for me when all the shit was going down, but then we finally got to the point when it was like, oh shit, the ACLU is going to take this case. Do you remember, just because, like, we're obviously two political government nerds, like, your thoughts around that time? Because that is some news that for the community.
Yeah, so when it first happened, my devastation of if it could happen to you, as we were protected because we were working in the Senate, like, our bosses literally could make the phone calls. Like, it was so weird how many times I'd call my boss and be like, I need you to make this phone call right now. We need to help this person. Yeah. And I'm watching this happen to you, and I was like, we are in the room. Mm-hmm. I don't understand. And so when you told me the ACLU was involved, I remember feeling hopeful. And I remember being like, this is how this is supposed to work. Like, something bad happens, we hold our government accountable. They don't want to be held accountable, we make them be held accountable. And I was so fucking proud of you. Mm-hmm. And I was so fucking like, this is a badass. This is a brave human, because it takes a lot to go up against those people. It takes a lot to put your name on their list, and you stamped that shit in fucking ink.
For real.
You did. And
then I made a podcast.
So it was one of those moments where I got to cheer from the sidelines about you being a badass. I had seen the tears. I had seen the anger. I had felt the anger. I had cried with you. But it was that moment. And, like, if nothing else, my dream is that after the situation, we have, like, a little regroup where we say, let's not get sued again by the ACLU. It would be
great if there was just that, like, basic accountability that we're going for here, right?
Like, let's just, like, the goal today, boys, is to not break the law first. But, like, if we can't do that, let's not get sued by the ACLU.
Thank you.
That's my dream.
I appreciate that.
And I'm so fucking proud of you, because, like, you are a badass, and you put your name on that shit.
And I would like to think that since then, you know, frankly, CSPD has had to maybe pay more attention and mind their P's and Q's about violating people's rights. And, like, even after, obviously, the arrests and all this stuff, like, there were still cases of CSPD, you know, assaulting people. Yeah. Dalvin Gadsden. We remember that case. And then I just kind of de facto became a person in the community who was like, if you've been hurt by the police, like, I want to be there for you. Yeah. And that's been like, I didn't plan that either, right? And so then we had the 2A proposition, or whatever, the question, whatever, which was really ridiculous in the sense that it was basically my words, right? Not a lawyer and my show, so only my words, is that, you know, a petty money grab that was more of just like a tool to show, like, that the power was in play. And maybe there's a better explanation of 2A. You're welcome to describe it, but I just remember calling you because the cops were asking for money immediately after they dicked me over, and so I was ready to vote no on 2A and knock doors about it. And it was so personal, and I just remember, you know, calling you more than once, and you were probably one of the few only people that understood why it was so important for me that no on 2A was successful. And I just was so grateful for that, because I don't think a lot of people would get that hype about, like, a random city question. And there's that, and then let alone having someone who understood why it would be so personal. And so it goes so deep. And at this point, I'm just saying thank you for being one of the people who understands me and, like, this crazy story.
We were ready to fight with you. Like, I was like, no. And it was one of those things where, like, no, you don't get to act this way and then ask for our money. No. And the biggest problem with 2A was, like, are we training them? Do they get to learn how to be actual peacekeepers? Mm-hmm. Do they learn skills? Or are we just giving them money to go play? Because, like, fuck that.
Yeah.
And so I was proud of us. And I was so disappointed when we, as a community, said no. And our mayor said, we're doing it anyway.
Right, exactly.
Like, the fuck, bro? Okay, we'll see you in 2 years.
Right, that's why it seemed like just like a petty kind of power thing.
100%, that exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we'll see him in 2 years.
Yeah, that's great. We love to get out the voter awareness. That's our job here. Yeah. And so, thank you for going down that part of the journey with me. And so, here we are. We're so close. E-Day, almost here. Most people we know have had a collective sense of dread.
Yeah.
So, you were getting inundated with people stressing your way. But that's probably been, like, since day one of being the chair. So, do you just want to take a quick moment to talk to people in this short time and acknowledge that? What would you say to them? What are you saying to the people who are bringing their stressing to you?
I am telling a story about when I was in 2016 and being at our election night party and being so excited, like we were all ready.
Over there at the Antlers, which we are not doing this year.
Someplace else. But yes, the girl, like just being with the girls and being the positive person that I am and watching Colorado go blue and going, okay, all right, we're halfway there.
I had 2 bottles of champagne. I popped one at that point.
Yeah, you're like, all right, we did our job. And then my job in Pennsylvania was to not lose by as much so that Philly and Pittsburgh could keep it blue. So we win our district, and I'm like, okay, we've lost our state senate. He's crying in a bathroom. We lost our state rep. They're both crying, and they've opened the bar up, so we're all like drunk and happy. And then the blue wall falls, and I look at my trans volunteer, who the first day I got there, I called her, and I said, please come, please come, please come. And I kept calling her, and finally she came, found a community with the Planned Parenthood girls, and like they were there together, like having sleepovers, doing fucking roller derby. And she looks at me and she goes, the blue wall just fell. And I go, yep. And she goes, I think I'm going to kill myself. And she said, it's so just matter of factly. Yes. Yeah. And I was like, Planned Parenthood, take her home. We don't leave her.
We're sitting with her.
That's, call me if you need to tap in. And I look at my mom, who's out there for me knocking doors, and I go, I need to go home. I'm going to cry. And so as people are calling me, I'm telling them the story, which is depressing. And they're like, bitch, you're not helping.
Just be real.
Right. And I'm like, but let me tell you, that taught me 2 things. The first thing, I never, ever, 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 ever say we've got anything ever again.
Nope.
I'm like,
we don't take it for granted.
You can write in. You don't have it. You can be the only person on the ballot. And I'm like, there is a chance somebody's going to write in above you. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I think that collective feeling of like we were there in the room, we know how it felt. Everybody collectively took that oh shit breath.
Yeah.
I think we are working harder than we've ever worked.
Yes, I do think that trauma has motivated us this time around. I know we're like transitioning out of spooky season, but I have been referring to this election cycle as like, is this finally the double tap in like the zombie monster's head? Not saying, not directly. We're talking figuratively, not literally. Take a breath, everybody. Yeah, don't misrepresent that.
Because but no. But yeah, that was the thing, right? Is like, I've never seen people get together like this. Like, I never in a million years, if you had told me 15 years ago, a black woman was going to make $1 billion in donations, that there was going to be white dudes for black women, that there was going to be white women having phone calls.
This timeline, I tell ya.
Karens for Kamala changed my life. Yeah. They were like, listen, white women, we know who we are. Get your shit together for the next 60 days. And so what I'm telling those people is like, yes, we were there. It happened. We were there. This could happen again. However, this is beautiful, and we don't stop fighting. Our country does not literally leave a monarchy to come here to have another monarchy, and we don't fight. Like, we gear up. So in the event that something goes south, I hope they're ready, because we are. We're organizing, and we're ready, and we're not giving up this country. And so when I tell people that, I think there's a little bit of them that goes, that's a roller coaster, we were on there, buddy, but like, I can get behind that. And that is what I want everyone to know is like, we were there, we survived, we will organize as we have to. Our country is our country, and we will take it back. but also there's like this really beautiful moment happening and we might see it.
Yeah, and don't let them take, that's so well said, because I've been leaning into that too. It's like, don't let them take that from us. Like, you know, it's very valid to feel fear.
Yes.
Feel it, process it.
Embrace it, yep.
There's no way but through.
Yep.
But we also have this amazing fucking moment happening. Yes. This historic paradigm shift, because, you know, regardless of the outcome, we've already achieved so much by having Kamala be our nominee, our candidate.
Greatness.
Yes.
Diversity. Yes. Greatness. Yeah.
And I'm saying it here, I'm not jinxing anything. I'm just saying I'm very optimistic. And once we put in the work, like, we see results. Like, you know, and we have 3 days.
So I never, ever saying that we got it, ever. But I'm optimistic. I've got my outfit picked out. I'm excited to go to our party.
This is the perfect segue. Give the people the calls to the action. What's good in your life.
Yes.
We're going to have a fun party.
Okay, yes, all the things. Call to action. You've got 3 days. You have 36 hours of real working time, 9 to 9 in Colorado when it's legal, to get things done. 36 hours to change this election. If you have time to scroll TikTok, if you have time to be on Facebook, you've got time to send texts. You can do it everywhere. Battleground states, people need your help. You can literally do everything from your bathtub. You can call in. You can start doing texts. Get involved. Do not sit out. Do not have the regret that we all had collectively in 2016. Don't do it. Just get involved so that you can say you fought in the resistance, no matter what. Now the good things, like, our fundraising is great because Kamala Harris. People are coming into our office because Kamala Harris. Never Trumpers are excited about Kamala Harris. I am in El Paso County and have a Kamala Harris bumper sticker that has not been stolen. I am excited, okay?
And you're an El Paso County girl, right? Like,
I'm a native.
Born, yeah.
Yeah, and my bumper sticker hasn't been stolen. My house hasn't been vandalized. And in fact, I got neighbors knocking, I love your sign. Give me some candy. Good. And I was like, yes, girl. Do you want a sign? I'm a sign dealer right now. Chair. Yeah. So there's that. As for our election night party, because I'm a little different than other chairs, we are going to a union hall. The first thing I got was armed security, because I will keep everybody safe in that room no matter what.
Yeah.
And then we got mental health support, so if we need it, it's there. And then I got a DJ.
Yay!
And so we're going to have champagne. We're going to have free drinks. Everything is free. No one's paying for anything. We want you to come, and we want you to be with community no matter what. We are celebrating together, or we are organizing together. So come get free drinks. Come hang out. The website, the RSVP is on our website and our Facebook. It's going to be a good night.
Hell yeah.
I'm ready to go late. So
definitely. And so quick question here too, because I know we obviously main goal E-Day, that's where I focus, but I do want to give a tidbit to people, like, they're so excited. We did a really good job of convincing them. And so there will be another milestone for the county party, a regular point of business that we do, which is reorganization. So you tell us more about how people can get involved then.
So you're listening, you love it, you want to be a part of this change. Reorg is basically our own election. It's how we pick our leadership. It's the opportunity to come in and run for something, to get involved, to have a vote, so that you can have an actual seat at the table. And that is happening in February. We are planning right now. Get involved, give us a call, send an email. We want to help.
Exactly. So just make a note on your calendar. There will be a future after Election Day. You don't have to think about it now, but in the meantime, put it on your calendar.
So fast.
All right. Well, anything else good in your life that you have? Your doggos, your amazing husband, your amazing fam. Yeah. Any more shout outs that we can give?
It's been a great year. My family has been incredible. My mom is holding down the office. Like, she's been great. She retired and immediately came to help. My new husband, who was a former independent, is now just a gun-toting liberal. He's great. He's out here. He's doing all the things. We love that. And my four dogs, who have given up so much time in tummy cuddles, soon.
They're part of the struggle here, too. They're in it. They're in it.
They're like, please let this election be over. They're counting down days, but that's okay. They ticked on the wall.
Good. See, they deserve some shout-outs,
too. They do. Lots of snacks.
Good. What are their names again, your puppies?
Annie and Gracie.
Cute. I love it.
Yeah,
okay.
I love them.
All right. Well, I think this is a proper segue here, because now we can remind people that episodes of Justice with Jax are recorded as a member of the Studio 809 Podcast Collective at the Nexus Community Co-working Space in downtown Colorado Springs. And as always, I'm asking that you remember to ask yourself 2 questions, which, 1, who's telling your story? And 2, how are you being the change you want to see in the world today? today. So thank you so much, Mischa. I absolutely adore you.
I love you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, without a doubt. This was always the plan. So this is Justice with Jax, signing off.